Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. This is Andre. I'm in the conference room. Just want to welcome everyone to tonight with Bonnie Harrison, Conversations in Hip Hop with Ugmagonline, International Underground Entertainment Magazine.
Well, good evening to you.
Good evening.
All right. Pardon me for that. I'm running, making sure that we got everything taken care of over here in Buffalo. We have a movement that's going on in Buffalo, so we're just making sure, we cross all our T's and dot all our I's out here in Buffalo. We just leave our mark as far as being a presence here in Buffalo.
Okay.
All right.
We were talking about commitment to self and community a little while ago. So is that what you're doing in Buffalo a part of that commitment?
Yes.
Are you still on the line?
Yes, it is. What we're doing is we're working with Pastor Wilson here in Langfield Houses. We're putting together an event in August that it is a national event they do for all subsidized housing. They call about 5,000 people. They have people that don't even come out of their house because they don't have a reason to come out of their house. So they asked us to bring our talent to their venue, that venue right there. And what we're going to do is going to generate jobs for the youth in the community because we're going to hire within the community to participate, to build the project, the platform, to make this event successful. So we'll be working with the church and also we'll be working with the community.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear.
That is.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about, letting hip-hop serve a useful purpose.
Absolutely. Bonnie, before Andre interjected, peace, brother, how are you? Is Tamara on the line?
Hey, Hotep.
Bonnie, it was so amazing that how you were going back from the origins of hip-hop and the consciousness that was originated by it, because I was a former hip-hop artist, female hip-hop artist. I'm legendary, but I'm unsung. And I guess because my style of rapping was so realistic, and I still have my books. I have, so many books. And I always say, that I'm too old because it's a shame how pop artists, they don't give an age limit, but when it comes to hip-hop, when it comes to the hip-hop genre, they want to retire us, when we get 28, 30, they want to retire us, and say that we're too
that's
old.
What they want to do, but that doesn't mean that we have to give in to that. And
Absolutely.
I was thinking just recently that it would be fabulous to have a group of women, senior women, doing rap.
Right.
And conscious rap.
Absolutely.
And there was a group of sisters that were rappers back in the 90s. I remember. There was a group of sisters that were rappers, and they were older women, and they were doing consciousness-raising rap. But, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. So someone...
Absolutely. A brother had stated that to me, too. He said, sister, why are you giving into that frame of thought? I'm a publicist. I do a lot of PR work. Since my time of, emceeing back in the days. And a lot of the women don't like to acknowledge me because, it was, my rap was so consciousness. And, when I took the stage, I gave performance and I gave a stance. And because my vocals would kind of amplify, I think it posed as a threat. And it's sad within the urban community, instead of us coming together as a whole, as a culture, as a race, as sisters and brothers, we're still maybe unconsciously, folks have this division that if you outshine, they think that you outshine more than the other one, then you pose as a threat to them. And my whole perspective on it is let's come together and let's all shine together. Mm-hmm. And even back in those days, I always had that kind of camaraderie. And, I don't mean any harm to the brothers, but, hip-hop has always been a male-dominated platform. And because I wasn't one of those sisters that believed in sleazing to get to the top or even just to get nowhere, I've always had certain morals and values that I stood by, and I insisted on having the respect, and a lot of brothers respected me in the long run, and a lot of brothers respected me then. But there was just brothers that couldn't understand that I just wasn't like a lot of the other women.
Yes.
That's been a sad thing. And even now when I reach out to some of the sisters in Pioneer, because, I always have, plans, I always think that, shucks, let's do something with the brothers because we don't want to push our brothers to the side, but let's do something with the sisters too. I was one of the first females that even thought about doing like a female kind of performing show with hip-hop, and empowerment. But I never could get it off the ground, not yet. Mm-hmm. Not to say that it's not going to come into fruition, but that's just one of my hopes and dreams that I've wanted to do. I had the pleasure of attending the hip-hop, trying to think the exact name, hip-hop research at the Schomburg.
Okay.
About last month. Mm-hmm. And, it's amazing how NYU it was about female hip-hop in the hip-hop industry.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, and they're doing a study and everything. And, Bonnie, we just have to stay in contact with one another.
Well, we certainly should.
Mm-hmm. And it was amazing how they had this panelist. They had Deborah Bond, who was part of Black Girls Rock. Mm-hmm. She was on the panel, and it had a whole bunch of other folks on this panel. One sister, she was one of the first B-boy dancers, female, mm-hmm. but they really didn't have any pioneers on that panel. And after it was over, because I happened to go there, I had seen it, and I was invited, and it was a free event, and I wasn't selected to be a panelist, but I had gotten an email, and I was so glad that I did go there because I had to let the sister know that, look, yes, these things are going on, and yes, they were talking about the consciousness of it and Morehouse and how women are being portrayed in the hip-hop industry is like they're just being degraded and it's being acceptable, calling out their names, and whereas we are queens among kings, and this is our birthright, and how, the media and the social acceptability is allowing hip-hop to kind of dilute its origin of being conscious, whether or not it was given from a female or a male perspective, so it was really interesting. So I had gotten the sister's information. I just haven't had a chance to follow up, but I said, wow, I can do something with this because, the panel really needs to be expanded. It really needs to be changed for next year. If they're doing some type of study, NYU is conducting a study on hip-hop, then it needs to be it needs to have some validity.
It needs to be balanced. It should be
exactly.
balanced. And your piece missing, creates an imbalance as far as I'm concerned. And that's a conversation if I were you, I think I would have with the person that might have organized the event. And if you don't know who that is, we can talk to Stephen Fullwood, who is the curator there. I can call him. And, maybe put you in touch with him or get some information for you. I can attempt to do that.
Okay.
But, it just goes back to us looking at how can we influence the genre of hip hop as in a way that can bring about the kind of change that we would like to see happen. And one of the things I'm convinced of is that no one can do it alone. It's going to have to be done in community.
Absolutely.
I believe in co-creation, and that's part of our problem. We lost the memory of community through slavery.
Absolutely.
And it's all of the other groups of African-based people who were kept closer to the land than we were, those who had foreign languages that were other than English, had a totally different experience than we did.
Mm-hmm.
And their outcomes are somewhat different because one of the things that they were able to do is keep the connection of family and community together.
Absolutely.
And to keep the entrepreneurial spirit together. We did that for a while in this country after slavery. We did that. But post-industrialization is what killed it for us. And then they wouldn't hire black men, and only black women could get, washing clothes jobs and cooking and cleaning and taking care of kids, and black men couldn't get work. So that's when our system started coming unglued.
Right, because then
Grandma
the men
wasn't
felt
around
inferior.
to take care of the
kids.
People had moved from the country to New York or to Chicago or wherever they went, so there was no family to help take care of the kids, so they were running wild and just whatever was happening to them. So our whole family system began to disintegrate. And so we're looking at the results of that today. And hip-hop can't be allowed, I don't think, and this is the conversation, to behave in a way that we see as irresponsible, that doesn't enhance the quality of life of the people in our community, our elders, our children. So how can we have a conversation about accountability? Because we've been having these conversations for a while, and someone said one evening that they talked about the freedom of speech and the fact that people had a right to say what they wanted to say, to express their art the way they want to, and it should not be censored. So that's another school of thought.
And it should be censored because under communication and mass media law, there is censorship. But it's kind of left as a leverage, or it has flexibility when it comes to the culture of hip-hop genre. That's what I'm finding.
So much money is being made by white people.
Absolutely. And
we're not making it. They don't care. And we, if there's no demand for something, there won't be the creation of the thing. There's got to be a demand for it. So the work is ours. And there's a lot of work to do.
But it's for us to take the light and the torch and to kind of, light that flame and that candle, even though it seems to be dim right now. But we need to revitalize that fire.
But how would you suggest we go about that, though? That's part of the conversation. How can we contribute in a way that would happen?
Right. Well, a sense of community, just like you stated. And, I'm out and about on various different platforms. And that's one thing that Universal Zulu Nation is attempting to do on a worldwide basis when it comes to the hip-hop genre. You remember that was created from Africa Bambaataa.
Right.
And that's going on. And I've noticed that there is a shift in a lot of their lyrics.
There is a shift. I noticed it too. I
see it too. Yeah.
And we have in the underground,
the indie,
community,
indie community. And what's going on now is like the major labels don't have as much control like they used to, because remember they were giving out all of this money and giving these advances, but then they were dictating the artists what kind of music to make.
Oh, absolutely.
And what kind of image they wanted to see them as. And
one of our
now,
conversations.
now that the indie is more of the mainstream, you know, the recording artists, the recording record labels don't know what to do. Even now, Chuck D is finally going to get inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which he should have been in there a long time. But he was one of the conscious rappers and pioneers of yesteryears. And I'm, you know, all for that movement. And at the same time, what he's doing is he's given an outlet for independent artists to get distribution deals with an 80-20%. Whereas 80% is going to the artist and 20% is going to the label, but there have to be digital mastered albums, you know, which is something that's like really unheard of. But it's something that should be done because the labels were taking all of this money from the artist, and at the same time, the artist was left starving and did not have any creative ability, and they had to dance to the beat of a different drum.
Right,
just
right,
like
right.
Even,
put a pin right there. Don't forget a thing you're saying. I just want to welcome the newcomers to the conversation. Good evening.
Hi, how you doing?
Who do we have on the line, on the call?
This is KD.
Huh?
This is KD from Savannah, Georgia.
Oh, JD from Savannah.
KD,
okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Your name?
Hi, I'm Chris Banks from Buffalo, New York.
Okay. Chris Banks from Buffalo. Well, we don't want you to be silent. We want you to jump right in the conversation, and there are no rights and wrongs about people's opinion. We all have opinions. And the idea is to have conversations in hip-hop to look at how it can benefit the community, how it does or doesn't benefit the community, what can it be used for to enhance the life and well-being of our community and our relationships. And looking at the language, does the language support or does it take away from the well-being of the community and relationships? And what do hip-hop intimate relationships look like? What do those relationships look like between rappers and their women, rappers and their men? Because language kind of dictates and is a portal. It's a way you can glimpse at what's going on in a culture. So if the language indicates what's going on in the culture, some very violent stuff is happening in the relationships between men and women in the hip-hop world.
Correct. But I just feel like it's so much expectations on. Like if you got 1,000 expectations, you got to meet goals of. You got to try to meet goals of each one, but they all conflict sometimes. So it's just a conflict. It's just like you got to say words that actually for people to actually feel your music, you know. So when you try to go from around saying those words, you get less, you know, you get less attention. Or you start rapping about, you know, violence, then you get more attention. So it just, so you know, it's just kind of like it becomes just a business part of thing, and it becomes an actual, you know, a reality sometime as well. So.
Well, how can we? Is there anything we can do about that? Do you think?
Only thing I should say is that they should provide. They just have to provide the artist with you know, with the right maximum type of security, because basically you just fulfilling your fans' needs now. So if someone is like this, they shouldn't go to something that they don't want to go, you know, that they don't like, you know. It should be only just people that really, you know, want to see that artist. They should attend that, because that artist, they got a certain relationship with that person. Sometimes a person can have, you know, problems with you, don't have anything to do with, you know, it just, you know, mainly one thing. And, you know, I came in your conversation earlier, and you said some key things. When I very first picked up the phone, you was like...
What was I talking about?
You basically were talking about the violence, you know, as far as like how can we, you know, how can they solve it. But it was basically on a standpoint that sometimes you get caught in catch-22. Just get caught in that lifestyle. It all sums it up, So you get caught up in that lifestyle, and just everyone they just categorize you, what they think you are. But a lot of folks, they rap about things, and they just showing some emotion, Half of these guys, they some are good at heart, but like you said, when if they lose a deal, if they sign the wrong deal, that's on them, because they sign a deal and then they have to go back and do other terms just to keep up with everyone else. Then, I mean, that artist and whoever company, they need to get that in, in order, because it is like a business, So,
well, that's one thing I heard as part of a conversation a few weeks ago, is that one of the things I know Ugmagonline has these groups and workshops where they believe that you just have to be an educated consumer group, and so teaching people how to negotiate contracts, what they should do, the steps they should take, all those kinds of things, because so many of these people, younger and older, you got 30 and 40-year-old folk out there trying to rap and rapping. So
we always say like this. If I heard someone say like this, it's not that. See, you got some of these guys just started rap. You got some of us that was behind the scenes, you know what I'm saying, and just been working with guys like me. So I'm behind.
This is Blackwell from Georgia.
Hi, Blackwell from Georgia. How are you?
I'm all right. I apologize for missing a few episodes. I've been kind of like dealing with a lot.
Well, we have to do what we have to do, but your heart was obviously still here because you showed up tonight. So thanks and join the conversation. I think that JD, was that you talking or was it Chris?
Yeah, this was me, So
JD.
Yeah, that's KD. So what I was saying was that. Well, I think it shouldn't be an age limit on. There's no age limit on singing. There's no age limit on anybody else doing something. Rappers always catch the heat. But if you got something that you want to bring to the world, some kind of attention, some knowledge you want them to focus on, then I think it's your right to voice your opinion, no matter what your age is. And just like you have no age limit on nothing else. No other end genre or nothing like that. It's just rap. And a lot of people, they want to say, well, the 30. I think, because see, back then when I was rapping, of course, I got a little older. I settled down. I have settled down a lot. I couldn't even think of a lot of stuff. My mind was so scrambling. It was just mainly the streets. Mm-hmm. So I could, I've been working with, people, been in the studio with like guys that been on the different other production labels, but it wasn't a business side then. It was just straight artists. It was a straight artist platform. If you could just sound good in front of Universal, they get your record deal. So, I've seen a lot of cats that I don't think should have got record deals. They got them. They can be talking about all kinds of crazy stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And what you just mentioned is the same thing that Tamara was talking about earlier. When it comes to women, because she was saying that primarily the industry has been male-dominated, and there's a sentiment in the community that, particularly women rappers, after they, age out, whatever that is, they just don't have the value. And
the women lose their swag. They lose all their swag once they turn a certain age. But you just have to be that special person that still got that same swag. It don't matter what your age is. If you can just, and if you sound educated and you sound like you know what you're talking about, then you should have a right to voice your opinion. Because maybe your opinion might not be rap. You could be a philosopher, but you have to start off from a certain level to get where your life where you're supposed to be at. Because like I said, I had opportunity to do this years ago, but I was just too young. My mind was just so second on just like all kind of, it was do this next, and I was just in the studio. I had I was doing me, drinking and stuff. The opportunity was right there. So I mean, it's just that when I said then, I said, you know what, I'm gonna have to try this when I'm a little older.
Well, what would you say to women?
What I say to women? Oh, I respect the women. You have to respect the women, but then, like sometimes it's hard for some males to keep up with the women because sometimes women move just as faster than males. So it's kind of like it all depends on who you working with. Some people are different, I think the Brat was still. I think she probably like besides with her MC life. I think she maybe the best MC or female artist in my opinion. Because I don't think she really got a chance to put out all what she wanted to put out because she was an artist in my opinion. MC Light, she was one of the pioneer artists. She was the first one back in the day.
And she had her baby, and so her thing kind of changed up a little bit. You know who I used to like, believe it or not, Eve.
So did I. I like Eve, but I go all the way back, Bonnie, to the 70s because I started rapping as a female MC at the age of 13. And 1979 was definitely a year, but, hip-hop had started up in the Bronx with Lisa Lee and the Mercedes Ladies and all of them some years prior. And it was brought down to Queens because our two brother, who was that, Katie that was talking?
Yeah, Katie.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Katie, I had opportunities, too, with Russell Simmons when he was just starting off. In Tribeca, and Sylvia Robinson that was head of Sugar Hill Gang. And I noticed a lot of the rappers, because, I hit a lot of the places, and I'm really unsung because I was one of the first female rappers to even introduce into jingle. I responsible for the Metro Curl jingle commercial, as well as I was working on a project for Lotto commercial, and a lot of folks don't, know about that, and they don't give me the credit for that as well. But, I'm one of those artists that I was looking at what was going on with the other artists, and I decided to go to college and become a paralegal because I needed to know and learn contract law, and then instead of me following my dreams, I got sidetracked. And even after I got sidetracked and I fell in love after I got my degree, I had my first daughter, and I used to take her with me to the studio, and I was so good at rapping that my producers that I had producing me, they were horrible because if they weren't getting any recognition, they wasn't going to allow anybody else around them to get recognition, and that's sad to say, and that's what happened.
Pardon me, Empress Tillman. I want to get a little bit more. I want some of the new blood to start. I want to hear some of their comments. The person that just joined our conversation from Buffalo.
Blackwell. Chris.
He has an upbringing in the industry. He's born into the industry, and I want him to speak a little bit on who he is and his involvement.
Okay.
Hi, how you doing?
Okay, how are you, Chris?
We're great. Feel free to jump right into the conversation.
Well, my name is Chris. I am 16 years old, and I've been around music all my life. My father is a former manager of EPMB in the hit squad with Dots Effects, Redman, all of that. So I've been around so much, and it wasn't until just a couple years ago that I started rapping myself. And but me being around it, it's been such an influence. I know I've been hearing you talking about like the like what like a lot of like the new rappers and what they're saying. I guess from my perspective, just because I'm a younger I can see in like a young perspective. I believe that a lot of things, like a lot of the new rappers coming out are like, they're like nothing. I don't think they're anything compared to the older, like the old school rappers. Or not even the old school rappers, like just the older rappers that have been coming out or that have been out for a while. New, it's just, I believe that hip hop just changes, and I know there's a lot of people that want to keep it the way it is, but I mean, sometimes you just gotta see what happens when it changes. But then again, there's a lot of other new rappers coming out from Brooklyn, like Joey Bad. I forget his name, but he sounds crazy, and he's using the old school New York flow, which is crazy. And like A$AP Rocky and a lot of these people from New York are bringing back the old style. And people like J. Cole, he's one of my favorite rappers. He's one of my favorite artists, and he brings back he makes his beats, and he makes his beats sound a little not too new school, but he still involves a lot of the new, the old like drum patterns and everything.
Rhythms, yeah.
Right, and he sounds.
So he probably sounds relevant then.
Yeah.
He sounds up to date, and at the same time, you can identify with him dealing with.
Right, and he brings in so many old influences. Like he's always talking about Nas and Kanye and a lot of these people. Like, and he's signed to Jay-Z. He just got signed to Jay-Z a couple years ago.
But how do you think people like yourself and like this young man can through the music and through the other things that you do, have a powerful impact on the community? What kind of changes for the good can come from the music and from the way a lot of the younger people want.
I believe that more and more people, I think, are coming out on one side of hip hop that express themselves amazingly, like Kendrick Lamar. His new album just came out last year, early this year. He expresses himself so much, and as a rapper on one side, I can he influences him and other new rappers that are coming out. They're very, very lyrical, and they're exceptional at explaining how they feel and expressing themselves. So that just as that, it influences so many people. I know even the people that don't rap, they are always listening to people, and just it's amazing how much one artist that comes out or goes on the radio can influence somebody. If you really listen to some of the things they say, they express themselves, express how they feel, and that just influences us as a youth. Or in my perspective, it influences me to show more of my feelings, to show more of my how I feel. And
when you talk about show more of your feelings and how you feel, what type of feelings are you talking about? Because one of the things we talk about in rap is that a lot of the feelings that show up are anger and rage and disappointment and hurt.
But
and degrading of women.
Yeah, that's where the anger comes in and the rage.
With that, there's always a different thing. And to me, music rap is just about expressing yourself, period. Whether it doesn't matter how angry you are. Sometimes people just, when they're having a bad day or something, they don't feel good, they write down what their feelings are and how they feel about the world or how they feel about a certain situation. And then if you're mad, then I don't think we're like making people like, oh, do these bad things or do something. It's just some of the things how they feel. Like when Eminem came out, he used to talk about crazy things, but that's how he felt and that's how he really felt.
They should put on a mute button if they have noise in the background.
Yeah, there is a lot of noise in the background. Yeah.
They could put on mute.
Man, focusing on one artist, putting them way above certain things, that's their business, what they got going on. It's just
right. And then the thing with women, see, I personally don't ever talk bad about women. And then some of these rappers out here are amazing at expressing themselves positively about women. Like, there's always songs coming out talking about, you're my angel, or like I love you, stuff like that. But then all the ignorance that some of the rappers talk about are just like, be this, F you, be this, and stuff like that.
Like Rick Ross, how about Rick
and
Ross
hold this and hold that, and then after a while, it's not really. I'm sorry for interjecting, but I just can't be quiet any longer.
Right.
What happens is that, hip hop as a culture, what are we really educating and feeding one another? Are we putting one another down as individuals, even though in the name of freedom of expression? Because I'm mature. I'm a mature lady, and I have daughters, 16, 20, and 26. And and even when I was sitting at the panel in the Schuckenberg, and they were giving so many feedbacks from the colleges, Morgan State, how if you're in a club, the beat sounds so good that you're really not paying attention to the lyrics, and then when the lyrics catch your ear, it's like some women find it very insulting. And as a race and a culture, what are we doing to one another?
Okay. I don't know if that's see, that's the thing. I don't like. I don't know, because a lot of people are like, so many people I know, they're like, the things that hip-hop is going out right now is just a lot of, disrespect to each other and women and all this. See, that's not even a fair statement for you to say that, because there's so many artists out there. Like, me personally, I have
there's artists that are saying excellent positive stuff, which is great, because I still listen to hip-hop to this day, because I'm an artist. I'm not a former artist. I'm an artist. And I love the art of music, period. There's this guy up in the Bronx, Triple Sace. Have you heard of him? Triple Sace. Yeah. Check him out on YouTube. He is a hot artist. He's the one that made Fat Joe and Big Pun, the guys they were. He was the writer behind them. Mm-hmm. And he's doing a lot of stuff. And his stuff is like hard body. It's hardcore, but he's so clear and concise. Even with Nas. Nas came out with a new album. And Nas is still the same old rapper that he was, and he's still getting his point across. And his creativeness is still shining through his tracks. So I'm not saying that the hip-hop entirely across the board, but, what's in rotation, what the radios play. I find what the radios are playing is like that negative stuff, even though they...
The radios just play what's hot. I mean, if they sound as hot, if you really if you're a true hip hop,
and what's hot and what's being paid for it in rotation.
If you were,
that's all true. It's a business.
I say if you're a true hip hop head, like I believe that
I'm not a head. I'm an artist.
Even if you are artist, I'm an artist too. I'm an artist, and I'm an artist, and I have 4,000. I did my homework, and I have 4,700 and something songs on my phone. And there's so many different artists I listen to, and there's just a lot of. There's just so many different styles out there. It's crazy. Like I can't even explain how many different things. Like there's.
Excuse me, Chris. Excuse me. What you're saying is so absolutely true. There are so many various ways that people are expressing themselves through the art, and it's also true that people should talk about their feelings, their pain, whatever these feelings are. And I don't think that the conversation or the objection that people have is geared toward that as much as it's geared toward the language that is used to express those feelings and how inappropriate it is in so many instances. For example, it would be inappropriate to expose children and young people to that language in any culture. Every culture has rules and regulations about how you behave with old people and how you behave with adults and how you behave with children. And you can't dance and behave and be sexually explicit and use vulgarity around children. And I've traveled all over the world, particularly Africa. It's just not allowed. So why is it that the American rapper resorts to using a certain kind of language to express their feelings about what's going on in their culture and in their relationships, when if you go to Trinidad, you go to Jamaica, you go to Ghana, you go to Soweto, you go to Botswana, you go anywhere on the continent, and you listen to the rap of those individuals, and those same young people are rapping about the same kind of issues and talking about the same feelings, but they are not using denigrating language toward women, and they are not using vulgarity. And they are talking about and educating about what's going on in their society, and they're so political that they end up getting killed. Like Fela, I mean, he's not a rapper, but this is an example. Right. Of Fela. His mother was thrown out the window because of Fela's radical discussion about the politics in Nigeria.
And speaking out against it.
Yeah, so I'm talking about social responsibility, and so where is the social responsibility? Because even when you have to eat and you have to pay the rent, there comes a time either you sell your soul to the devil or you draw a line in the sand and you make a stand for something.
I think that...
And it's got to be about more than yourself. It's got to be about... I mean, one of the reasons people don't make a lot of money sometimes is because it's all about them. It can't be just about the money. It has to be about how can we enhance the lives of other people and our community.
I think the only thing I can say about that is just a lot of people just don't know. I don't know. I can't even say. But I think that we all have a freedom of speech, and we deserve the right to say the things we say. And I mean, if it's like it has to be censored, then censor it. I mean, it's our
We're
music.
not talking about censorship, but we're not talking about censorship.
No, I mean, like in certain language, and I mean, sometimes it's just the people say the way people say the things they say is just because that's how they feel, and I don't think it's fair for people to say or tell somebody that what you feel is not appropriate, and I don't think that's fair for someone to say that. What they feel is what they feel.
I don't think anyone has the right to tell someone that their feelings are inappropriate. You
and I mean, like,
whatever you feel, and that is I would defend anyone's right and position to take a stand for that. The conversation, though, is not about people expressing their feelings. It's about how they express them. For example, I know that you have some boundaries when it comes to how people express their feelings. I guarantee you that even at 16, there's a part of you that wouldn't allow you to sit naked in front of a room full of children in a kindergarten class.
Well, I mean,
because that would not be acceptable. There'd be another way you could sit there and entertain them and talk to them and play with them and get your point across about how you care about kids without sitting there like that.
I mean, how is that saying? So you're saying some of the things people say on the radio and people rapping are equivalent to being naked in the kindergarten class?
I'm saying we're talking about what's appropriate and inappropriate. And I'm saying sometimes the language, not the emotion. I can yell and scream and say how enraged I am and how angry I am and how I feel like killing somebody. But I don't have to put MF in there. Women don't have to be bitches and whores. I don't have to define women that way. Or men don't have to be defined as niggas. Because
I'm saying it's been like that. It's been like that since I mean, it's been like that before I was born. It was rapping like that.
But does that make it okay?
But I mean, it's gonna be like that. I think it's just gonna be like that. The people that set that style, like NWA, when they started coming out, like talking reckless, like it's just
right.
They started that. They started that, and
they certainly did, and that shift was something. Go ahead, Chris. Finish though.
They just. But you got to think they changed the game. If it wasn't for NWA, a lot of these rappers wouldn't be where they are, and a lot of these rappers wouldn't be expressing like just be as good as they are. And I think that they helped. Well, I don't know, because sometimes it is bad, like BMF, FU, all this, like a lot of things are like, all right,
and inviting them to the private parts and all of that crap, you know.
Right,
and
that's a little too much. I'm not talking about.
How about the brothers that just came out with his song about doping women and giving them drugs, and then when they pass out, raping them.
Oh, Rick Ross. See, I don't even know about all that.
That's really sick, don't you think?
And Rick Ross, they stopped playing his music as well as Lil Wayne because of the concept giving correlation to Emmett Till.
Yeah.
And I believe people know when you do get too far. That's why Rick Ross got dropped from his Reebok endorsement. He's not signed. He doesn't have his Reebok endorsement anymore.
No, that's not why he got dropped. Why he got dropped was thousands and thousands of women started a letter online and through Facebook and through Twitter and emailed. I mean, I got gazillions of them, and we all signed petitions, and we demanded that he be removed.
Yeah, but I'm saying that's what I mean. I mean, like, some people know that sometimes there's a boundary to what you can and can't say, and I mean,
then it becomes a responsibility of the community. Then
exactly, to start censoring it within themselves without having the public do it.
Yeah.
So we have to start from within. I wanted to say, because when hip hop originated from Africa Bambaataa, prior to that, they were gangbangers. Even my cousins in the south side of Jamaica, Queens, and when they started the hip hop culture there, they were all gangbangers. And when Africa Bambaataa had that epiphany and journey to Africa, it helped change his whole perspective. Yeah. So then they utilized, instead of violence, they started utilizing hip-hop as a form of expressing themselves. And a lot of times, see, the rappers are getting into it because they're looking at from the perspective of where they started, but they're not really being educated on the history and the origin of hip-hop, you know.
Not only the history and origin of hip-hop, but they don't have an education on their own history and origin.
That's true. You're so right, sister.
I like to say hip-hop turned into a whole different, it started to go in the wrong direction to me.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you, brother.
Because on the flip side of it, man, you got so many guys, you know, transgender, and it's crazy. I mean, I rather not. I just rather do my. I just rather do. I don't have no. I don't disrespect, folks. Whatever they do. It's just that it's at certain levels.
Well, how do we as individuals then? How do you as an individual address the social issues through the music? Let's look at how we individually do that, because I think no matter what we think about what's going on and what we know about what's the history, I think each of us in our own way makes a contribution.
It's all about honesty. It's all about honesty because if you realize it's just like this. I don't. It's like this. If you basically soften a man, then he's vulnerable. So
if you do what to a man, he's vulnerable.
I'm just being honest. I'm just an honest type guy. When you try to crack down and try to put a pause on men's in general like this guy was going on ever since way back in the hip hop when they was really talking about that. I'm thinking that hip hop is getting better towards women because I hear a lot of love songs on the radio. Like I hear a lot of Wale. It's what about you to listen to. You feel me? So it's like y'all saying don't say this, don't say that. Then because it's not really black folks is really buying the album anyway. It's more.
So you're seeing a slight incline and a slight improvement in the way it's being presented. Is that what you're saying?
It boils down to this. It's so many ways you can look at it. Black folks is not buying the albums. They getting bootlegging. Rappers are getting pissed. They putting hard time in work in the studio. If you're really an artist, then you should see from an artist's point of view.
And the plagiarism. One thing, by me being a publicist, and I have rap artists as clients, one of my artists is Clean Cut, and I love him for that. His music is awesome, and I know that I can go international with this artist. But his name is the Don. He has so many followers, because of his style of rap, and expressing himself, and it's awesome. And then I had another client that, I had to let him know that I no longer wanted to work for him. After my contract was up with him, because of the vulgarity and the profanity and the degrading of women, and being the fact that I have moral values and principles, and I don't care, money doesn't matter to me because, I stand on principle and I stand on a culture. Overall, what's going to be beneficial. I look at the overall thing. And like you stated a little earlier, Bonnie, I refuse to compromise myself just for the sake of money. And that's just the way that is. And any artist that I work with, PRs, we do more than sometimes management does, because now I find as a publicist, I'm doing a lot of the artist development and all of that because we're critiquing to brand and image and market this particular artist or product.
What you're also looking at then is you can have an impact too because so many of them need re-education.
Yes.
And the kind of personal... There was a time when artists were managed back in the olden days, even not of hip-hop so much, but like the Berry Gordy days,
Right, Motown.
All that. You had the contracts that were signed, and people were taken care of to a certain extent. I mean, they would have voice lessons. They would finish their degrees, their high school diplomas. They'd learn how to speak. They'd learn how to dress. And there was pride in the way people dressed. I'm not saying people are not proud now the way they dress, but it certainly doesn't look the same. There was a different image that people were portraying then that went along with the music. So you can look historically, though, and see how music, no matter what the genre is, changes. And I'm seeing and I'm hearing us in this conversation say that even in the genre of hip-hop, we're observing changes. And so I'm hopeful that what we're looking at now It's not so much about being hopeful, but I do believe that what we're looking at now will change and be a variation on this theme. And it'll change based on what people want. After a while, sometimes people do grow up and they just don't want the same thing they wanted when they were adolescent in their thinking, or when they were adolescents. Or when
and
they
the
were
mindset
hungry.
changes as well as the education. And us, that have a little more wisdom and education, we have I feel like I have a responsibility,
well,
to be my brother and my sister's keeper.
Yeah. Well, some of them don't know that they don't know. There are different levels of knowing. People always know what they know, and they know what they don't know, but they don't know what they don't know. They don't know that they don't know certain things. They don't know that they don't know that they don't know. So that's not something that's going to be something they'll ever address. When we're talking about the conversation around the language, some people grow up in households where this language is common. It
certainly is.
With it.
It's just,
in their communities, it was common. I mean, there are different classes of people and different experiences people have had, and there were rappers who were a different class than some of the rappers that we're looking at now that are so hardcore.
Right.
But some of them, believe me, this life is their life. They don't know another language. They don't know another conversation. They don't have a consciousness at the level we're talking about. They don't have the level of awareness about their own politics, their own history. They don't have the information.
Absolutely, and even with me, I've come from very humble beginnings. Very humble.
It can be humble, but that's
I left home at the age of 14, so it's like the streets. I learned and knew about the street, but I made different choices and decisions with my life.
Yes.
Yeah, I was meeting with my Congress. I was talking to one of the Congresses for the state. We met up, and that's one thing about that. I get to voice my opinions, what's going on in my situation, and I can talk to him about it. You feel me? So.
Okay.
My voice is getting heard. It's not like I'm sitting there behind something, high, No, it's just you getting in the community. My father, he's like a activist for the community. He help out. He give. I mean, we type people. I don't cherish material things. What I'm doing is I'm living my dreams. It's like it's just like when I thought I quit rapping. Like when I thought I quit rapping, it was people when I walk, when I go out, they're like, just like I went to Atlanta, somebody called me a rapper. Then I'm just like when I got on stage with I did shows with rappers, I just like. Yeah, I probably want to get back in it. So, I just really, I'm just putting my music out there, what I'm saying? I'm not really, I'm sorry for being, like guilty of saying anything that's, vulgar to women. I definitely.
How y'all doing?
That's for women. So.
Well, how you doing? Who is this coming in now? Who just joined the conversation?
How you doing? This Nelson.
Nelson
from Buffalo.
From Buffalo? Okay,
yes.
We just were listening to KD, who was talking. KD, I'm sorry, would you finish what you were saying?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, hey, what's up, everybody? I can't hear you from my phone, but I'm right next to Dre, and I hear him on the speakerphone. But I better talk through his speakerphone, or I got to talk through my phone.
Well, you can probably talk through the speakerphone as well. But what's happening is we're getting a lot of feedback from the volume on the phone.
Right, and the noise in the background. Maybe you want to mute it until you're ready to speak.
Mute my phone and mute his phone. Mute your phone. Okay. Yeah, put your window up.
Probably his phone.
Yes, I can hear better now.
Right.
Okay. All right. So go ahead, join everybody with the conversation.
So what's the topic?
Well, oh boy, we've talked about really responsibility to the community and to self in the genre of hip hop. What is the hip hop artist's responsibility to self and community? What kind of controls does the artist have responsibility for putting on themselves so that what they say and the way they say it doesn't have any negative effects on vulnerable people like children, for example, or doesn't offend older people. And then we talked about if language represents the reality of a culture and a community.
That's right.
What does the language then say about the relationships between men and women in hip hop culture? That those intimate relationships, are they that violent? Are they loving? Is there all this promiscuity and infidelity, and is all this denigration? Is this how the men really feel about their women? And how do the women feel about being talked about like that in these hip hop relationships?
Right. Well, we had this conversation last night. Similar, they was asking, they would point their finger at the youth, saying this and that, and I was saying what we plant grow, and basically that's where they're at consciously, and they didn't come out of a vacuum.
No.
By being that way, and it's just so many attachments and misinformation that we are attached to in the community that we don't want to change a bit. And it's sad to say a lot of things we stand firmly on is being confronted as being false, incorrect, the whole 9 yards. But we are attached to these things, and we still teach them to our youth. So the reality of it, it's like a subconscious rejection because we're not coming with light to the youth. We're coming with tradition and this and that and this and that, and where it just doesn't work anymore. It's just a new day of light, and we don't and we itself as elders. I mean, I have like 250 guy kids. I talk to the youth on a regular. Stop beefing the town, the whole 9 yards. Deal with them on a regular, and you can see the spontaneous wit in them, and you can see the outgrowth of certain traditions and religions and what have you in them, and at the same time, you can see this decadent behavior, but at the same time, it's stemming forth from what we don't want to change and keep forcing.
Well, we said in initial conversations we began a month or so ago that part of what we might look at as the challenge has to do with we older people dropped the ball. We didn't take care of our responsibility to younger people. It's older people's and adults' responsibility to protect, educate, guide the youth. So I'm sure we have good reason we can highlight racism and oppression and all kinds of things. But the bottom line is we didn't not only protect our youth and educate them and politicize them, but we didn't create any outlets for them to make money.
That's right.
So they were then left to their own devices and finding ways of taking care of themselves to feel like men. And it also meant having to, I think, just blunt out any sentimental feelings about anything and just keep their focus on that dollar. And after a while, there's a drunkenness almost, a high that comes along with performing. And especially if you're making money and getting attention. So after a while, you go from being, someone with dreams and not very much to someone that's got more than you ever had, and you have all this attention, and have no one that you respect enough to listen to prepare you for how to live in this whole new way. So they self-destruct out there. It's such a sad thing.
That's right.
And they're set up to get the girls for them.
It's set up to be like that. Exactly.
They get the drugs for them, the girls for them. They sexualize everything for them. And these little people,
and it raises the epidemic of AIDS and HIV. I'm involved in the AIDS walk, and it's just staggering about the growing statistics among the urban communities.
And you would think people never heard.
We're right here. We're right here in Buffalo.
And among the colleges.
We're right here in Buffalo.
And above.
We're right here in Buffalo where they have the highest HIV rate right now, and they got this thing called blueberry coochie, where if you don't check a girl's coochie or a girl's not checking their coochie, it's blue. Like, ugh.
We got the highest HIV rate, second or third highest murder rate, second poorest city. But guess what? We got more churches per capita than anywhere in the country.
And more liquor stores and bars.
And they put the alcohol in the front. You know, so instead of us going to get juice or water, you know, it's like the youth, the first thing they want to grab is the alcohol.
That's when they get that old.
I remember doing the paper.
That's when they get that old. But before they get that old, the first thing they do is run in the candy store on their way to school in the morning and get all the candy.
Exactly.
And get that liquid sugar water, that stuff that's processed. You know, the little $1.50 thing, juices or 25, whatever it is. And if you notice, they don't sell those in the white communities, but it's in the urban communities.
Yeah,
you know, so all of those things, and you know,
and that is not our youth's fault.
No, it's not.
Our responsibility to police what comes in and out of our community, and it's our responsibility to police what goes in our children's stomachs.
Absolutely.
And mine.
These storekeepers are not giving that stuff away. They have to pay for it. So where are they getting the money from?
Exactly. It's the consumer. And then at the same time, you know, not to go off on a tangent, but try to bring the point back, even with hip-hop, you know, hip-hop was diluted and diffused by, like Chris stated, the NWA, when they came out with the gangster rap style and everything. It bloomed up for another market because they said, listen, this is another way to oppress the people.
They said blueberry. What up, Joe?
You know, this is another way to oppress. Hello?
What up?
Go ahead.
Okay, this is another form to oppress the urban, the community. You know, I don't think that this was all done by coincidental and solely by a shift of change. I think it was intentionally and purposely done because of the original purpose behind hip hop. Because it went from gang banging to a positive message and a learning and teaching of social changes. Because I remember a lot of the record companies, when you got too political, they didn't want to release those tracks. Exactly. You know, I remember having a political, radical rap, and Profile didn't want to release it. And I got held up in a contract because Profile didn't think it was inappropriate for a market that should have had it because it was educational.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So all of these things are just not happening by coincidental, even though our youth are led to believe that, you know, and it's just not even about traditional. I think that, you know, us as having the wisdom, if we're looking at the overall picture, we're seeing what's going on, and it's a conscious state, and it's still our responsibility as conscious folks to make some changes. And you know what? It's like sparking a fire, and if we start working that energy, it's going to catch on. Trust me.
Well, that's
especially
one of the
in peace and love.
Well, that's one of the strengths, I think, of the indie market.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I don't see mainstream contractors, mainstream houses being interested in promoting life-saving music in our community.
Right. And guess what? And it's been a catch-22 for them because a lot of them have gone out of business because of the new approach. Indie is the new mainstream. You have R&B artists like Music Soul Child, like I was stating to Bonnie earlier. I was going to book Music Soul Child for an event, and he left Atlantic Records. He's independent. Same thing. Erykah Badu's been independent since 2007. You know, because of the control of the record companies now. And, you know, people are being more creative.
That's why Lauryn Hill stepped away, you know, even though her music isn't what you would consider rap necessarily, but
I'll be back with it here in a minute.
Control was always there, and conscious musicians and artists just didn't want to have it. You know, they would step away, some of them.
Right, exactly. And they weren't compromising their values, but at that time, they really didn't know the loopholes now. Now we have digital. You know, now we're entering the digital age, and, you know, with all the plagiarism that's going on and things like that, and it's totally different. The whole industry has changed. You know, and it has happened.
What's happening is you've got the audiences that are buying bootleg music, and that's cutting money out of the pockets of the artists. And before, you had the people that would sign them up who gave them screwed up contracts and took everything they had, and they would put out hit music, record after record after record, music after music after music, and get 17 cents on a one album,
on $1,
you know?
Or even on $1 on a track.
So you know, and they would end up going bankrupt, just like TLC did.
Yeah, Tony Braxton.
So many of them, you know. So
yeah, look at oh goodness, what's her name? Whitney's aunt.
Dionne.
Dionne Warwick just claimed bankruptcy like a week or two ago.
They're trying to maintain that lifestyle. That's them. They try to maintain that lifestyle.
But then, you know, they didn't have these contracts in order, really. And then they had so many people that were handling different things, like accountants and what have you. And a lot of those artists have gotten ripped off, too.
Yeah.
And then they didn't know they didn't know about the royalties. I've composed analysis of licensing analysis in order for, you know, my artists to know to collect their royalties, because a lot of times they're not going to school, they're not learning this stuff, you know, and, you know, they're not getting their music registered, and they're not being BDS reporting and all of that. You know, it's just...
that's going to be the responsibility of the independent houses. They're going to have to provide that for the people they're under contract with.
Exactly.
And have different people on staff that can provide them with the different kind of services they need. For example, I think that every recording studio should have a coach, a life coach, and
so do I. So do I.
Because that's what I do. Because most of those individuals need some help, and serious help. And they're out there on the road, bugging out. They're out there getting high, freaking out. They're out there, you know, doing all kinds of things. They're
getting accused of rape, a murder, and all of that because they don't have life coaches there. They're getting caught up in all these legal battles that could be avoided.
Like that should be a standard, part of standard operating procedure.
Absolutely.
And everybody would be required. It would be written into the contract. They'd have to have sessions every week.
Yes,
and I would travel with them, so they wouldn't be able to get away with it.
Bonnie, I definitely have to get that information, because, you know, that's my exact sentiment. I share that with you 100%.
Yeah, we got to do the healing. That's part of the problem. The healing. There's just all these wounded, broken-hearted people, angry people who have a right to be.
Absolutely.
So this is a good way to kind of close down.
Listen, I'm among the walking wounded, but I don't appear to be that way.
Well, we're all working on healing those wounds.
Absolutely.
We're always
it's a lifelong process.
Sure. It's a work in progress. Well, I think someone came in on the call late and didn't say anything. I heard the bell, but I didn't hear anyone say anything. Is there someone that didn't get a chance to say anything tonight?
Am I the only other woman that's on this call?
Tonight, yeah. I mean, since I've been doing the calls, I think
it seems as though you were the only woman on this call, but I don't think it's that way.
Besides Bonnie.
But I don't think we don't usually get that many women. We had like 2 women on one night.
Somebody has to turn off of their. Somebody has to place their mute on because there's a lot of distortion, a lot of distraction on your phone. All right, I see. I hear that we took care of that.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So does anyone want to say anything to take us out tonight? It's 9:30 now. We need to close, but anyone have any last minute something they want to say? Because I want to just acknowledge everybody from showing up tonight, for engaging in the conversation. I really love
with everyone, with my views or our views with Tariq, I just want to say hi to Tariq because Tariq is somewhere else right now in the studio working on a track right now. Like I said, we have a momentum going on here in Buffalo that is universal with the Buffalo Kings and Queens, so we're doing that. And the managing, that workshop, people should join the workshop because that's where you get coached in that music workshop. Our back room, such as Bonnie, Empress Tillman, and also others, RB, others in the field. That's what we do, coaching. Now, we don't want to, because our time is limited. It's short, rather, so we can't really manage all the artists that are involved with the magazine. But what you can do is you can make comments, ask us questions, ask us any questions. I mean, a closed mouth don't get fed.
And make comments about the conversations that you participated in tonight. Just go on the site and put a post on my page. Put a post on Ugmag's, the home page, wherever you can make comments. So let's keep.
And I'm still trying to get my home page.
Your information. Take my email address down, Tamara. It's Bonnie. This is for anybody that wants it.
Okay.
BONNIE.
Yes.
NYC65.
NYC65? Okay,
New York
got
City,
it.
Yeah. Bonnie, NYC65 at yahoo.com. Shoot me out one, and then I'll shoot you out one. I'll give you some information where you can reach me, too.
Like mine thinks alike.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you all, my brothers and my sister.
Thank you.
For showing up tonight and making a contribution and dealing with your commitment to yourself and the community, self and others. I mean, this is how we're going to get things done, and I appreciate you showing up again, and hope that you'll be able to touch bases with us next Wednesday at 8 p.m. I'm looking forward to seeing you.
Okay, peace and blessings.
Everyone, peace and offering, peace and blessings.
Ashe, Madupwe.
Ashe, yes.
Ugmag, Dre, Andre Dawn Music, Tariq, Locked Doors, saying peace and love, International Underground Entertainment Magazine, Ugmagonline.com. I said it before, I say it again. We're offering peace and blessings. Peace.